The Michigan Wolverines received 3 commits from the portal today in 1 hour, on top of earlier in the week receiving a commitment from backup Indiana wide receiver Donovan McCulley. So the Michigan Wolverines have 4 incoming transfers so far in their 2025 transfer portal class. And what I want to talk about today is the commitments that Michigan received this Monday, December 16th, at the time of this recording. And I also want to talk about who are the Wolverines still pursuing and who should they pursue, because after a 7-5 year with a 5-4 record in Big Ten Conference play, I know Michigan beat Michigan State and they beat Ohio State, their 2 rivals, and they had a winning regular season and a winning season in Big Ten play. But the season was not a success. It was not. There were successful aspects of the season, getting Bryce Young, motivating the boosters, beating your 2 biggest rivals. But 5 losses, including blowout, humiliating losses to Oregon, Illinois, Texas, close losses to Washington, and a loss to Indiana that could have been another ugly loss. That's not a success, especially with all the first-round talent Michigan had this year, and that they are losing for the most part entering 2025. So Michigan has a lot of work to do in the transfer portal, but they're being active, they're being aggressive, they are pursuing a lot of different players who are competing at a high level and succeeding, or succeeding and competing at lower levels who the staff trusts and think that they can, groom them to be better players in the Big Ten and contributors to a Michigan team that has high expectations year in, year out. And now with Byrce Underwood at quarterback, I think that Michigan, with a schedule of opportunity next year, is looking to be back in the college football playoff and Big Ten championship conversation. So let's talk about today's commits. Michigan had several. They first and foremost had the Metcalf brothers from Arkansas, and they combined, both of them are defensive backs, by the way. They combined for 57 tackles, 7 passes defended, 3 interceptions, and a forced fumble. And then you have Brady Norton, who has a 73.5 offensive grade from Pro Football Focus, offensive tackle from Cal Poly. He had a lot of snaps this year, one of the better offensive tackles in the FCS. Just great prospect. And I think that with Michigan's offensive line, the situation with Evan Link, where for much of the year he struggled mightily in pass block, got better as the year went on, but with Miles Hinton declaring for the NFL draft, I think it was necessary to bring in an offensive tackle for Michigan. I'm glad the staff, Grant Newsome, new offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey, and Sherrone Moore realized that need. And bringing in Tevis Metcalf and TJ Metcalf, depth in the safety room. I forget which one's the younger one, but one of them's very young, like a freshman this year. The other's more experienced, so you get some young talent that you can develop, and another talent who is a proven player in the SEC. And these things should excite Michigan fans. Oregon, I was just talking about earlier in the show. Oregon's being aggressive. They're making big moves in the portal. And Minnesota is in their own way, too. Not getting the same caliber of players, but getting 10 players this early and getting them to go to Minnesota, nonetheless, is quite remarkable. And I think Michigan is closer to Oregon than Minnesota because they have a lot of resources. I mean, they can get some top guys in the portal, and they have a lot of money backing them. They're a blue blood. They're only 1 year removed from a national championship, 1 year removed from winning the Big Ten for 3 years in a row. They've beat Ohio State for 4 years in a row, who I think many, even with Oregon's success and even with Michigan's success, still view Ohio State as the program in the Big Ten right now. So today's commits, I think, are an epitome of the fact that there's excitement around Michigan football. They're being aggressive in the portal. They're pursuing guys in the portal. And Michigan's also keeping a lot of information close to their chest because these commitments just happened, thrice in an hour. And there was not much buzz or news surrounding Michigan operating in the portal. The Metcalf brothers visited Michigan. Brady Norton was offered by Michigan, but that was about it. not much else news was provided. And yet, here we are. And Michigan received 3 commitments in a day, on top of Donovan McCulley, who was not active for much of this year for Indiana, but in 2023, he had a good season. He had an okay year in 2022. I just think that Curt Cignetti's guys at receiver are dudes, are some of the better receivers in the Big Ten. And I don't think Donovan McCulley is that. He maybe could be developed into that. I think he's a good receiver, an above-average receiver. But is he a dude? Is he an all Big Ten? Certainly not all American, but all Big Ten caliber receiver. I don't think so. I really especially loved bringing in Brady Norton. Really loved that. He's not yet 300 pounds, but he's tall, and I think the staff will get him up to 300 pounds, and it was very effective at Cal Poly. Let's look at some more transfer portal needs, though, for Michigan. I think Michigan needs a quarterback, for starters. I think that Byrce Underwood has to compete with someone for the job, and you need someone to mentor him, someone to develop him, and I'd say preferably a mobile quarterback because Underwood does have some mobility. And I think with Chip Lindsey commanding the offense now as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, you are going to see Underwood run the football, or whoever Michigan brings in at quarterback. If they do, and if they beat out Underwood, they'll run him at quarterback. I think that losing Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards both is a blow to the running back room, so I think Michigan needs at least one running back. I thought about 2, but I know Michigan's recruited all right there. I know that people are excited about Benjamin Hall. 2, I don't think 2 is necessary, but I think it would be good. But certainly 1. Michigan needs at least one running back from the portal. Amarian Hampton declared for the draft, so Michigan is not going to be getting him. Just used him as a UNC connection. Was there for the same amount of time, if not longer, actually, than Chip Lindsey was. Michigan, I think, needs 3 wide receivers, a tight end, although the tight end, well, I don't think is an emergency need. I think it's a need because, Marlon Klein and the rest of Michigan's tight end room do not have the same type of experience or upside that Colston Loveland does. Michigan also needs a guard. They need a tackle, and they got a tackle. I made this list before the commitments, but they could use, I think, another offensive lineman. And I think also Michigan needs a defensive tackle, a corner, and a safety. Additionally, Michigan could go after a 4th wide receiver, a 3rd offensive lineman, a 2nd defensive lineman, and I think a 3rd defensive back. Michigan, they're losing a lot of talent after 2024, and a lot of their talent that is coming back or that played significant time in 2024, there are questions surrounding. I mean, look at the quarterback room, for example. If Michigan returned all of their quarterbacks, we'd still be talking about getting a transfer QB, including Underwood coming in, because Davis Warren, Alex Orji, Jaden Denegal, all of them are worse than Byrce Underwood. It's the same thing with Jaden Davis. And then you look at running back behind Khalil Mullings and Edwards, who's really proven. There isn't a proven player. Now, I think Benjamin Hall will do rather well, but I'm not a member of the staff. I'm not an insider. I'm just speaking my mind. I'm a knowledgeable college football fan and a college football analyst. I'm not a coach here. Michigan's wide receiver room, even though they did have some good recruits from high school, none of them have really panned out. So I think there's some fresh blood needed there. And in the secondary, well, Michigan's performed rather poorly there, and they don't have a lot of depth. They lost a lot of depth, whether it's injury or to the portal, in the preseason. So I think Michigan needs DBs. I think they need perimeter players, and they need players really everywhere. It's very helpful that Michigan's bringing back Dominic Zvada, though. I think the best kicker, or one of the best kickers in the country, for sure. Let's look at the offense here, and then we can check out the defense. Offensively, Michigan, I think, should target Caden Salter. I'm just going to say it. Pause there because he's regressed from 2023 to 2024. Had only 1,886 passing yards this year, 15 touchdowns, 6 picks, 7.2 yards per pass attempt, and he had 587 rushing yards for 7 touchdowns and averaged 5.1 yards per carry. Not a good year for a quarterback. But in 2023, he was much better, and he's a mobile QB, and he's a veteran QB, and he's played in a system at Liberty where they like to run the football more than they pass the football. I think at a basic broad level, he fits a lot of what Michigan wants in a quarterback. And I think bringing him in to mentor Byrce Underwood or start this year if Underwood isn't ready, or maybe be a part of a 2 QB system would be smart here. I don't think that he's the biggest priority because I don't know who Michigan is going to target at quarterback. They wanted Billy Edwards Jr., but he decided to go to Wisconsin because I think at Wisconsin he's probably going to start there. And at Michigan, there are no guarantees to start. Michigan is going to need to either pay a quarterback who wants to start a lot of money to sacrifice his starting gig. They're going to have to get a quarterback with more eligibility remaining so that if he doesn't start, he can transfer somewhere after that season. Or they're going to have to get someone who's willing or maybe even wants to be a backup at quarterback. So that's why I don't have anyone listed in this video, but I shouted out Caden Salter because I've liked him for a while now, and I would love to see him in a Michigan uniform, and I think he's a good QB. At running back, you have Quentin Joyner, who had 478 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, averaged 7.6 yards per carry, and also Alabama running back Justice Haynes, who was recruited by Tony Alford, went to Alabama. Alford's now at Michigan, but Ohio State's another team to look out for him. 448 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5.7 yards per carry. I look at Max Clare at tight end, who had 685 yards on 51 receptions and 4 receiving touchdowns at Purdue. He could be a tight end that wherever he goes could have 1,000 receiving yards next season. He's a really good tight end, just played in a system that was rather poor. At wide receiver, I have Dane Key, I have Eric Rivers, Omega Blake, and Kobe Paysour. Kobe Paysour is from North Carolina, 19 receptions for 330 yards. Omega Blake is from Charlotte, got the Biff Poggi connection, 32 receptions, 795 yards, 9 touchdowns. Eric Rivers, 1,172 receiving yards, 12 receiving touchdowns, would come from Florida International. And then Dane Key from Kentucky, another area where he may not transfer if the situation there wasn't so bad. 715 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns on 47 receptions. Those are some people that I think Michigan is either looking at and offering, courting right now, or who they should be offering and courting. On the offensive line, Isaiah World, Falali Famoe, Jordan White, and Josh Thompson are some other players to look at. World and Famoe are offensive tackles. White and Thompson are guards. All of them have had over 600 snaps. You look at all of them as well. They have, except for Famoe, have at least a mid-60s grade or higher from Pro Football Focus, and also 600 snaps or more. And Famoe was rated highly by 24/7 Sports, played at Washington State. That's kind of why I put him up there. They had a successful season, and 24/7 Sports is the one of the best, if not the best, scouting services for recruiting in the sport. So if they say he's highly rated, but PFF doesn't, well, I'm going to give 24/7 some benefit of the doubt there. That's for offense, though. Michigan needs a lot, like everywhere, on offense. They could benefit from reworking a vast portion of this offensive roster because of how just unproductive and unserious it was in 2024. I mean, seriously, Kalel Mullings deserved better than that offense. Same with Colston Loveland. Same with, like, Tyler Morris, for example, who's transferring out. On defense, I look at defensive tackle where Mason Graham is gone. Kenneth Grant, I don't know if he's officially declared yet. Maybe he has, and I just haven't seen it, but he probably will declare. It'd be awesome if they somehow brought him back, because him and Rayshawn Benny, I think, would contend for being the best defensive tackle duo in the sport. I think Benny is going to be an All-American, but you likely need some depth. And that's where I look at Keyshawn Silver from Kentucky, 26 tackles and a sack. You got Lee Hunter from UCF, 44 tackles and a sack. If Michigan wants to maybe upgrade at defensive end, or at least get someone to replace Josiah Stewart, Will Helt had 5 sacks and 56 tackles at Purdue in a very dysfunctional defense. Imagine what he could do in a better system. And at corner, I'm not looking at linebacker because I think both Barham and Hausman will return. Don't know if they will, but that wouldn't shock me at all. At corner, you have Takario Davis, Tony Grimes, and Emmanuel Camley, who combined have 16 passes defended and 89 total tackles. Tony Grimes previously had interest from Michigan last cycle. Takario Davis and Emmanuel Camley are both from Arizona. Davis had interest from Michigan, I believe, last season, last transfer portal cycle, but he declined and ended up staying at Arizona this year, where he had another good season. Defensively, the roster is not as bad or in need of reform as offense, but still, there are a lot of holes at secondary, and I think Michigan, you want to keep that defensive line flowing and working and just being a wrecking ball against opposing offensive lines. You do not want the talent there to drop off if you can help it. It probably will drop off from this year to next year, but you want to minimize that as much as you can. And if possible, well, make it so that it doesn't drop off. So that's who Michigan should target on defense in the portal. Also, Tommy Doman left. He entered the portal, so Michigan is in need of a punter there. Expect Michigan to get probably more than 10 portal commits, I would say, and they're going to get some big names as well. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and also hit that notification bell so that way you can get notified when new content from College Football with Sam drops. I appreciate you very much, and also share the video around to others who you know enjoy the sport of college football and love it as I do and as you do, and comment your thoughts down below so that we can have a conversation, because I want to know what you are thinking. And join our Discord server where we talk college football 24/7 via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment. Thank you to my Heisman Patreon members, Crash2488, Brasco Rascal, and Kylo OH. Thank you to my All-American Patreon members, Chris Lane, Ismar, and Tyler Nye. And thank you to my All-Conference members, John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, Joshua Jorgensen, and Will Loftus. Make sure to check out my merchandise store and or Patreon page, or super chat down in the comment section below to support the channel. The Patreon page and merchandise store links are in the description or down below in the pinned comment. I hope you have a wonderful day. It is December, so Merry Christmas and also Happy New Year. I will see you guys soon.